Can't hear you.
Hi, Pam. Thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the San Diego County Office of Education Parent Series. Today's topic is AI and deepfakes. What are they? I'm Chris Garcia, serving as an EdTech coordinator here at SDCOE. I'm joined by my colleague, Pamela Rabin. We're excited to spend the next hour together unpacking what this technology means for our families. So before we begin, a quick note. This session is for educational purposes only. We are not providing legal advice. Laws around AI and deepfakes are evolving quickly, so please understand that. But also know that policies also vary across our districts here in San Diego County. So please check with your district's policies if you have specific concerns. Also, I'd like to invite you to join our EdTech's parent series that we have coming up in the next couple months. So we have online scams and info security, what families need to know. That'll be taking place on Tuesday, October 28th from 4 to 5 p.m. Next is When Gaming Takes Over, and that will take place on Monday, November 3rd from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And to finish off the month of November, we have a session focused on technology addiction. That's going to be taking place Tuesday, November 18th from 4 to 5 p.m. If you would like to register for these events or would like to look at our other EdTech offerings, please scan the QR code on the screen or visit sdcoe.net/edtech. My colleague, Dr. Rabin, will place a link in the SDCOE, a link to our SDCOE EdTech homepage in the chat. So here's what our goal is for today. First off is to understand what deepfakes are. Also, see how they impact kids at different ages. We also want to share what California Educational Law Ed Code says. And we want to provide tools and strategies so families can stay safe. So we're going to start with the quick activity. We're going to play a quick game, and I'm going to show you some faces, and it's your job to decide if it's real or fake. So you can play along with the link. I believe Dr. Rabin could probably put that in the chat as well. If you're watching this or if you're having a viewing, a meeting or whatever, you can just follow along as well. But we are going to identify which images are real. Now, when we do this, there are no wrong answers. It's just more about noticing how convincing these images can be. So let's take a look at this. All right. By the way, you will have access to these resources and even this game at the end of our webinar that has the resources page. So real or fake, we're going to click on an image to expand it. It's going to either be A or B. Now, let me go ahead and decide. I'm going to go ahead and go with A. The filters look just a little too real or too fake, actually. Somebody said B, thank you. But the correct answer is A. And image A was generated with Flux using the prompt early 2000s emo profile pic, selfie taken on an old digital camera from 2001. All right, let's just do one more. We're not going to go through all 10, just to get a little taste of what is taking place here. All right, image A or B? I see some people have put the chat, so you can answer if you'd like, or you can just think to yourself. All right, some people are saying B, some people are saying A, B, B. All right, a majority are saying B. Let's see if this is the fake one. Incorrect. Image A was the AI generated image. Image B is a real image from this source, and the link is there. So that is how this game took place. Again, a link to this game will be available later on at the end. But I do want to leave you with this question before we turn it over, this next section over to my colleague, Dr. Rabin. But after going through that little exercise, I want you to consider this question. First off, how does it make you feel knowing that some of these people don't even exist at all? Looking at these images and knowing in the back of your mind that person isn't even real, even though they look real. The other question to consider is this. Yes, someone put scary. That is scary. How does it make you feel knowing that this photo is not of a real person? So think about that. I'd like to turn this next part over to my colleague Pam Rabin. She'll explain a little bit more of what AI is. That way we understand what AI and its role within AI and deepfakes.
Thanks, Chris. While I'm doing that, if you don't mind, Chris, Christina is in the waiting room. I was trying to locate her.
Okay, I'll take care of that.
So, hi, everyone. I wanted to say that AI is not new. It's been here for a really long time, in fact. So does anyone out there have Netflix, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, Hulu? How about a Spotify or Apple Music account? All of these use predictive AI to learn about us and then to offer us something it thinks we'll like. AI's been learning what we like and what we don't like for a long time. So when I turn my Netflix account on, you'll see romantic comedies. And then on the other side of that, my kids will have cartoons. We have smartphones now and other smart assistants like Alexa that can unlock by scanning our faces and that can also recognize our voices. We have those little CAPTCHAs where you select all the bicycles to make sure real people are interacting online instead of other computers. Spam filters are helping us sort our mail, the junk from what we really want. We have smart assistants like Alexa and wearables like Apple Watches that respond to us and make suggestions and even monitor and protect our health. So what's new then? Well, AI isn't just running in the background anymore. It's right up front, it's interacting with us, and it's generating new content. So with that, we need to be able to recognize it and decide how we engage with it.
Thank you, Dr. Rabin. Now let's talk about what deepfakes are. So deepfakes are AI generated or manipulated videos, audio, or images that appear real. Think swapped faces, something that we actually all did maybe 10, 12 years ago on Snapchat when we were doing that. Next are fake voices or even fabricated evidence. The US Government Accountability Office defines them as manipulated media made using AI. MIT Sloan calls them synthetic media that convincingly alters someone's likeness. Merriam-Webster describes deepfakes as recordings altered to misrepresent someone. So this is what AI is defined as. Okay. Next, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Pam, and then we're going to go ahead and she's going to give you what this next video is, and then we're going to check out kind of a funny and interesting video that goes with this.
All right. So what does a deep fake actually look like? Well, this is a video that gives us a bit of an idea. Virgin Voyages and Jennifer Lopez collaborated and used the concept to make a funny but powerful video that's showing you that you can't always believe what you see.
People to Virgin Voyages, not doing whatever. That. Really, Kyle?
It's good, right?
Gen AI is supposed to be inviting people to Virgin Voyages, not doing whatever that was. You know, just give me that.
As I was saying, why not celebrate on
An award-winning voyage
with Michelin-starred, chef-curated menus?
World-class destinations, award-winning.
Boring. I'll hop in there. I'll hop right in that suit.
So supple.
I can't watch this. Give it to me. There's no kids here. That's all you need to know.
No kids!
Oh, can I live there?
Gen AI. Invite your crew to voyage. Create your custom invite at virginvoyages.com.
It's not just a yacht, it's a super yacht.
All right.
So as you can see, it's really important to point out that while this was funny, we see Jen Lopez, and she's not really the person behind what's happening in the video. We can also see that while it entertains us, it could also be used or misused, really. Chris, may I jump in really quickly?
Sure.
I see there have been a couple questions about attendance credits for teachers. who are wanting to earn USD credits. I will put that link in the chat. If you're a parent, please just ignore that link.
Okay, thank you, Pam, for that. So why should parents care? Well, experts warn that children's digital identities are often shaped long before they can control them. Even well-intended posts can later become material for deepfakes. One recent survey found that 40% of students say they know of deepfakes with people from their school. Now, while that number may sound alarming, it also shows why awareness matters. Families, schools, and communities can work together to get ahead of these risks. So there is a powerful video entitled A Message from Ella that highlights the importance of deepfakes and how they can influence a child's life. However, in consideration of our audience and the variety of locations from which all of you are joining, we will not be watching this video together. However, we do encourage you to view it on your own if you choose. Now, if you decide to watch it, please be advised that the video does contain some strong language and blurred imagery that may be unsettling to some viewers. We do recommend watching it at your own discretion and not in the presence of children or minors. I will say that the content carries an important and serious message. Dr. Rabin.
Sorry about that. All right. So this is an important topic for families to discuss and understand because it can affect all levels of your child's development. Really, young kids are still learning to discern the difference between what's real and what's pretend. They don't always recognize when something's fake, and it may be that they're quick to believe that what they see or hear online is real. They need steady guidance from adults. And even as they get into middle school and high school, it becomes easier to create and spread rumors or edit images that can potentially harm themselves or other people. So students need support from family members and other adults at school to learn why they should not be creating and spreading fake images and how to respond if they're targeted, and also help keep them safe from online predators and online scams that can be happening. There are skills that can help, or actually these would be skills that can help them into adulthood when identity fraud, reputation harm, and scams can also be issues.
Thank you, Pam. So let's look at the legal landscape and overall general privacy laws. So first off, understand as parents, there are laws in place to protect our children. For example, COPA and FERPA, they do protect the lives of our children from major companies that exist out there. However, Juris Doctor Stacy Steinberg points out an important limitation in current law. Her research reminds us that while legal protections are still catching up, families do have the power to set boundaries and protect their children's digital presence. Her article entitled Parenting Children's Privacy in the Age of Social Media, Current US privacy laws protect kids from third parties, but do not protect children from their parents' own disclosure. Meaning that me, as a parent, I have the power to post my photo of my child online. And if I do that, I've taken some of those rights away. So this is also a legal blind spot that most laws assume parents are always the protectors, not the potential source of risk. This is just a reflection for us as parents. Unfortunately, this does leave children with almost no legal recourse if their digital identity is compromised by what we as parents post. So let's talk a little bit about the school setting, and what better to have than our very own Christina DeSanto. She is a current principal at the Linda Vista Innovation Center that is part of the San Diego County Office of Education. She brings over 25 years of experience as a teacher, vice principal, and principal, and she's also passionate about equity, innovation, and connecting students to careers through hands-on learning. Today, she'll be sharing some educational laws that are set in place to protect our children at the school site. Welcome, Christina.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful opportunity. First and foremost, I sound so fancy. Thanks, Chris. That's great. The first and foremost thing I want everyone to know is that we are your partner. The school is your partner. I have spent, up until I went to the county office of ed, I spent my entire teaching career, with the exception of 3 years, and administration career in middle school. And you can imagine that is when things kind of go off the rails very quickly. So my big thing is I want you to understand two things. One, we are your partner. It may feel when you go to school, especially when you're going to campus and your child, your beautiful cherub has been wronged on the internet for some reason, and it's going to sometimes feels like the administrator's got kind of like a blank stare. It's because we are have to follow our education code, and we've linked it in here because if you feel like some good reading one night, you can get into it. But basically, these sets of rules are guidelines so that we have a place to start. Here's your nugget. This is your takeaway. As a school principal, I only have to have a reasonable suspicion that something might be going awry. The police department has to have probable cause. This is why you always go to school first when there's something happening with your kiddo around anything related to another student on the campus or anywhere else. Our job first and foremost is to protect kids. My job, I tell kids all the time, my job is to keep you safe, no matter what that means. So when you go to school, the most important part about, especially in this internet world that's kind of like the Wild West, is keep the evidence. A lot of times I dealt with parents that were so upset and frustrated and angry, which all those things are absolutely valid. And I have the same feelings. There's no evidence because they've erased everything out of just being so upset. The big part of it is have your child block whoever it is, but screenshot, keep all those messages, because when you come to campus and you are working with your admin team for your school, that is going to be extraordinarily helpful. Of course, if things are getting kind of into the realm where things may have broken like laws, we're going to certainly call in our police partners. But because I work at a school, I have a lot less obligation to like knowing why things happen. I can just think it could be happening, and then I have the opportunity to start investigating. So as a partnership, this is so important. I always shared, and unfortunately for years and years and years, when as soon as we went from like flip phones to smartphones, this kind of went wild. And I've done so many investigations with all of the things related to Snapchat and Instagram and online cyber stuff related to like not being very nice to each other and saying horrible things in writing. Those are such valuable pieces of data. What I always tell parents is the phone belongs to the grown up in the story. And that is a very difficult thing because we want to give our children privacy. However, as a parent, unless that child has saved the $1,200 for the phone and pays the whatever the monthly fees are for that phone belongs to you as the adult, and you are a partner in your child's internet existence. So that is the first thing I always want to make sure, like that phone belongs to you and you're allowing your kid to use it. The big thing is that we are your partners. And I know I've talked to many of my family since, because they call me back and say, thank you so much, because I have to be level. I have to be level-headed. My heart is breaking inside, but my job is to get as much information from you as possible so that we can work together to create a safe space. And believe me, if we have the opportunity and we have the data and the evidence to back up a severe consequence, we're going to go that direction because we want to make sure everybody understands that there are consequences to bad behavior. The other thing is that we know a lot of parents want us to throw the book at the kid right away. And it's like, we do have some rules and regulations that we have to follow. So please know that we are your partner, that we are here to help. We are here to love and support. We don't want anything bad to happen to any of these beautiful humans on the planet. We just want to make sure that you know that when you come in and you're upset, my job is to get you as calm as possible so we can get the data out and the information, and then let me do my work. This work takes time. It's not instant. Even though those messages come in like lickety split, It takes sometimes weeks for us to get to the bottom of it. And any information that you can give is really helpful. So a lot of times kids won't want to screenshot, especially in Snapchat, because it tells the person who is sending the nasty message that you've screenshotted it. We tell kids all the time, like, I need to know who started this. And we do as much investigation as we possibly can on campus to make sure that we can keep your kiddo safe. But just know we are your partner, that we are here to help, and that we're going to want to scream and yell and pull out our hair just like you, but we are not able to do that because our job is to look at reasonable suspicion and to get to the bottom of this as quickly as possible. I'm always here as a resource. So if you are facing challenges, you're not getting help that you need, you can always reach out to me and I'll be happy to talk you through whatever things that need to happen. But please know we are your partner and we love each and every one of our kids as much as our own if we could do that. So we're here. Love.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. DeSanto. I really appreciate you joining us and for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us this evening.
Thank you too.
So with that same message of protecting families, let's dive into what parents can do and find some solutions of protecting our children and our students. So here's how it starts. It actually starts with the conversation. It starts with being able to talk early and talk often. Explain to your kids, explain to what deepfakes are in age-appropriate ways. And we'll go over some of those resources in a moment of how those conversations can look like. But also discuss boundaries and privacy in real and in digital life. How does the privacy look like? How does it look like online? How does it look like even when you're hanging out with your friends at school? And also, this is important as well, have conversations about what your household values are. Talk about what your values are for your household. Another tip families can do is model safe sharing. Be mindful of what family images you post. This actually can go back to those early conversations, having a family conversation. Should we post this online? Yes, no, what do you all think? Do we have your permission? How do you think you look? What image would we give across? What message would we be sending if we were to post this online? Having, again, just those conversations and making a decision as a family. Should we post something? Should we not? What are the risks if we do? Dr. Rabin.
Sorry, rookie mistake, I was muted. So as Christina pointed out, really what you can do when it comes to having something like this happen is partner with schools. Ask your child, it says here, ask your child's school if they're teaching around AI, around media safety. That would include digital citizenship. I know I have children, and I had to go to our school once with something like this, and they were very helpful. They were able to connect me with the resources that I needed to be connected to. They were able to be someone that I could talk to and find out what was happening. And then they also gave me ideas for how to talk with my daughter about it to sort of mitigate or support any feelings she was having around what had happened to her. And I'm grateful that it was not anything very horrible, but it was something that was a big thing for our family. So again, partnering with the schools, finding out what they're teaching your children, but then also finding out how they can support you is very important. Also, it's important to build media literacy with your child. So Chris had already said having conversations with them, anticipating sometimes conversations that they may need to hear, especially if you hear something in the news around, in this case, we're talking about deepfakes, learning what they're looking at, right? What are they seeing? What do they know about the topic? What do they believe is fake or real? And are they having trouble discerning it? That can be very much based on their age. You can also have them practice spotting manipulated content, like that real or fake game that Chris has linked you to here. And then also choosing tools wisely. In any kind of cell phone that you might give your child and many computer programs, there are parental controls that would allow you to set filters, get alerts, and kind of limit exposure to what your children are seeing. You can also create an environment that encourages your child to come and talk to you if they ever encounter suspicious content. So just like you would have your child come to you if they were experiencing trouble with a friend and you're that person they can talk to, you can be that person online as well.
Thank you, Dr. Rabin. And I also want to point out there actually are some tech tools and opportunities for detection. And a great example is actually from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They actually have a Detect Fakes project. So this project helps people practice identifying manipulated videos. So a link to this checklist that you see right here, it's a lot, I'm not going to read all of it, but I will put a link to this checklist in our resource one-pager that you can utilize at the end of our session, or if you choose to rewatch this at a later time or share it with others. There are fact-checking sites and detection tools that are available, but consider this, is that detection tools are continually improving because the technology of artificial intelligence is continually improving. So we have to remember that technology moves quickly, which is why pairing these types of tools with family conversations and awareness just makes it more effective. Well, to wrap up, it's important to understand this, is that deepfakes are real and it's growing. However, we, as teachers, as parents, we can prepare ourselves with the current trends of these changes by asking questions, participating in webinars, very much like this one, and partnering with our learning and school communities. It'll be important for that. We also need to be aware that laws are evolving. So become informed about your rights. Here's a good example. To understand our rights even more, look precisely and look very closely at the user agreements that we often accept without second thought. Right now, there's a lot of updates happening. If you have, depending on what kind of phone you have, but there's a lot of updates happening. Do you agree to these terms and conditions? And the reality is, at fault at times, we don't read the entire terms or conditions. But what we could start doing is maybe copying those terms and conditions into an AI tool like a GPT and asking it to explain what we are agreeing to. So again, another way is just to be aware of our rights and what we are agreeing to when it comes to the user agreements. Pam, any last summaries or calls to action?
I'm just wondering if any parents have any questions for us in the chat that they'd like to put in. And we've kind of gone through a long list of things. Hope Yamada is saying in the chat, I'm not sure if everyone can see that, but she's right. As a parent, you should know if an online app of any kind is free, then oftentimes you can consider yourself the product. They're going to be getting information from you. They're going to be looking at your information. They're going to be storing that information to learn from your habits, learn from what you do. So if your children are getting onto apps that are free, you just might want to dig into kind of the parental controls, dig into the user agreements on them, and find out what kind of information they're really getting from your students. That goes back to sort of knowing what your students are doing, what games they're playing, what sites they're visiting, and having daily conversations around that.
Great, thank you. Keep the questions coming in. We will have a time for that as in the next few slides where we will be going over this and giving you all the opportunity to ask questions and look at the resources. Pam, do you want to explain a little bit about the small daily steps?
Sure. We also need to be aware that laws are evolving. So you can become informed a little bit more about your rights. One way is to better understand your rights is by looking closely at user agreements again, and that you're often accepting without thought. I think I'm on the wrong slide. I'm like, it says Chris on it. I am so sorry. I have a slide deck on my own going on right now. Okay. Yeah, no, I think I kind of covered this, but just small daily steps, checking in with your child, modeling how you look at information online, how you interact with it. When you see something that you are questioning, explaining that to your students. How are you going about thinking about it? How are you going about, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Fact checking it on your own. And a little bit around the idea of triangulation of information, right? You can go to different sources and find out if something's happening. Something that I think about a lot is images I see on Facebook where you might see the camels and they've been swept away by a huge rainstorm. And some people are commenting on how horrible that is. Other people are commenting on how fake it is. And those are things where if you, an easy Google search of those topics can find out if it's real or not pretty quickly.
Thank you, Pam. So here's one immediate takeaway that you can have this evening within your household. Start a conversation by asking the following question. How can you tell what's real or fake online? Just that simple. How can you tell what's real or fake online? Ask your kids if they use the internet. Ask them if they're on. If you see your kids actively online, ask them. Can you tell if something's real or fake online? And we'll put the link to the resources in a moment. I know a lot of you have been asking for that. Play the deep real or fake game with them. See what happens and see how they score and how you score. The other thing is one of my colleagues, Jessica Sierra, she's one of our colleagues here for our tech department. She recommended this really cool resource from Common Sense Media, which is Carpool Conversations, to guide that dialogue. So oftentimes when we pick up our kids from school, hey, how was your day? Fine. Okay. But sometimes, what if we have a list of questions to ask? These are important questions that you can start doing coming back and coming home from school or whatnot. All right, before we dive into the resource page, I just want to remind of our upcoming parent series or sessions in the oncoming weeks, especially if you joined in a little later. So first off, online scams and info security, what families need to know. How many, I'm raising my hand, but have been victims of one of those DMV text messages, or I've recently been getting a lot of grocery ones that I've signed up for Albertsons and Ralph's, and I'm like, I already have those accounts. But what do families need to know about those online scams and info security? We're going to be talking deeply into that on Tuesday, October 28th from 4 to 5 p.m. And then next, as we get ready for the holiday season, when we're on break and students are eagerly playing their Nintendo 2s or whatnot, but when gaming takes over, let's talk a little bit about healthy boundaries with that. And that'll be taking place on Monday, November 3rd from 4 to 5 p.m. And then to finish off the month of November, still with the idea of technology, all in all, we're going to be focusing on technology addiction, and that is going to be taking place on Tuesday, November 18th from 4 to 5 p.m. So please, you can scan the QR code right now to register, or we can also, if you go to stcoe.net/edtech, you will be able to register there as well. All right, so the moment you all been waiting for, please visit the following link or scan the QR code, and that will pull up the one pager that has all the links and resources from today's webinar. And I am going to look at some of these questions and I'm going to answer them. That way we can also have it translated by Monica. And Monica, you've done a great job. And we do have a lot of questions. Dr. Rabin, feel free to also collaborate on this, just in case I need a drink of water. And of course, I'm not the resource of all knowledge, but we can make this collaborative as much as possible. So the first question was info on finding and erasing digital information that might be online on your child. That is a great question. There are different resources out there. There are cybersecurity cleaning softwares that do exist. And that is something that you can look into. There are a lot of ads for that. That is something we might actually talk about later on when it comes to our next parent series, the cybersecurity info. There are different platforms that do exist. Sometimes you see and you hear about like the McAfee app, the Norton one, the VPNs that exist out there for that. But there are other companies like Aura that take away that information, and you can actually, there are some paid services for that because it is a service that does exist out there. Unfortunately, there aren't many that are very cost effective and friendly. which is another issue and a challenge when it comes to equity and access. But that is something that you can consider, and something that actually we'll take these questions and see if we can provide and find alternatives of getting that. But that's a great question. Thank you for that question, for asking about taking your child's information off online.
If I can jump in real fast, Chris,
Yeah.
one thing you can do immediately if you know the platform that it's on, parents, especially if minors have certain rights, you can always contact the platform directly, tell them that this is a picture of a minor that did not have permission to be put on the platform, and request removal. You can, sometimes you can search images and things like that if it has your child's name on it. Chris talked about the data broker sites that you can find. But the other thing we can say is definitely, again, we're going to make that connection with the school district, because they are able to bring a team of people together. So even if it's out of the knowledge of your principal, they're going to tap into the district resources. If the district doesn't know, they're going to tap into people like us at the county. And if we don't know, we bring a team of people. It might be police services or something like that. And I know that can sound scary, but it just might be talking to them and saying, what can we do for parents? What's the next step? So we can act a little bit as a liaison for you to find what you can do. And then we also have access to this kind of larger system of parental supports that are out there to help you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Pam. And I will say the district IT departments, I've worked at several of our districts here in the county, are top notch, and they all collaborate. I will tell you this, they all collaborate together when it comes to your child's digital safety and security. So even then, still, even when it comes to resources that are out there, your district might have, well, they will have actually the connections and the resources, even with your district's IT and cybersecurity teams as well. Someone else put the question, I've tried the Apple phone limits and Bark app, and they both don't seem to work with app limits, etc. Any other suggestions? That's a great question. That one I have not tried. Pam, have you tried anything when it comes to phone limits, or even like the screen time limits that Apple does place on the iPhones, or any other ideas? I know my colleague Jessica Sierra was referring to some of these ideas earlier today when we were talking about it, but it was something else when it came to kind of making your smartphone more of a general phone.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that might be a good series for us, because a lot of times students, as they get more savvy, can figure out how to get around any kind of limiting softwares, right? They find other devices, they find their friends' devices. So there are apps and things out there that can help. I know that the Apple phone limits, again, as a parent, you can set a parent control that's a different passcode from getting onto the phone. Something I would recommend is, frankly, asking AI, ask ChatGPT to walk you through steps. If you have a certain type of phone and you want to say, how can I set any parental controls on here? A lot of times, and just say, walk me through step by step. You can get pretty quick answers nowadays just through an AI ChatGPT kind of a interface. The other thing would be, again, I think, thinking with what we would do if a school contacted us, which we're sitting there going, what are those new apps out there? We have the luxury of having time to go and look at these things, because we also have parents that would be asking us. So you've put that in our bucket of things to go and investigate.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just as a heads up, the slides, we had several questions. If these slides will be shared, yes, we will. We're following up. So as long as you're registered for this, we will follow up with the resources and the slides, so that way you have access to them as well. And then later on, make sure this recording will be available later on as well. Someone asked a great question. Can we train our kids a version of this training series at school? It would be a good reinforcer to hear at home and at school. My kids are in elementary and are, yes, you can definitely do that. I would, again, recommend partner with your school, talk to your school administration, and also your schools have counselors as well. This would be a great resource for schools, for admin teams, even teacher leaders and counselors to work together to bring awareness for this. Our guest panelist, Christina DeSanto, here, our principal here at LVIC, also shared a resource with John Moffat, and he offers trainings for schools. He's a Moffat. Thank you. Moffat. Thank you, Christina. I didn't. Sorry, I didn't realize you're on. Do you mind to just share a little bit really quick of just how's that experience been with you, sharing about John Moffat?
So I've worked with him probably when I was a teacher and I was in charge of this back in the day, like before this was like a thing. John was working with us. He does some pretty amazing things. Like he goes and dives into the schools social media that's open that he can get access to as just some rando person, and kind of shows the students with their identities protected, of course, that but you recognize because they're all wearing school shirts, you know it's from your site. So the kids kind of get a, oh my gosh, the kid lessons are great. I know what he does is he does scaffold it for elementary to go to, like, I mean, he's not going to go do this presentation for kindergartners, but definitely upper elementary, like fourth and fifth graders. But his website's there. He's a local. He lives in, I think he lives in Vista. So he's not very expensive. And he started this because his kid was someone was messing with his kid online. So he's a parent, he's an educator. Cyber is his life. So I strongly encourage, please drop my name if you reach out and say, Christina told us to call you, because he is an extraordinary human. And in addition to being great at his job, he also employs a group of interpreters in Spanish so that you have the English and Spanish straight away right there. When he does it in person, they come both, there'll be an English setting and then a Spanish setting so that everybody feels comfortable in their native language. I'm sure if there was other languages that you need, I'm sure he has resources as well. I've only just used the Spanish, but he's definitely a great resource. I would highly recommend him.
Thank you, Ms. DeSanto. And then we have another question. Somebody posted if in Spanish actually, if the presentation will be able to be rewatched and where will it be posted? It'll be two things. First off, it'll be posted on our SDCO YouTube channel. And secondly, if you are registered for our parent series, and this one, you will receive an email that will have a link to the recording once it's available as well. And of course, on our EdTech page. So we are going to blast this and shout this message from the rooftops, because I hope that many of you have found this valuable and important for today. At this point, we've pretty much gone through a lot of our, oh, go ahead, Dr.
Well, I was going to
Bridget.
say, did we happen to, sorry, I've been kind of answering questions and looking things up in the background, but we have two questions and I wasn't sure if we answered them. One person asked, is it acceptable to track your child's location on their phones? And they said they've heard conflicting opinions. And I have to apologize because I'm about to give you a conflicting opinion, but I would say it depends on, we'll always send you back to your family values, right? How you interact with your children and what makes sense to you. What I can do is tell you my own experience. My children are now 22 and 24, and I'm still tracking them on their phones because they've given me permission to. My father has given me permission to track him. And the conversation with my kids was more that it was around their safety than it was about me really wanting to follow up on them. Because I knew as they got older, when they were younger, it was more of a, I'm going to track you on your phone because I want to know where you are. I want to know if you've made it home, if you're walking home, or if you're with a group of friends. As they got older and I was able to release more responsibility to them, then it became, they kind of liked me knowing where they were. I had to make a promise not to stalk them, not to make comments about where they were, things like that. And especially now that they're in their 20s. But along with all of our families, there's kind of an openness about, we know where we are, and it kind of helps us. If someone wants privacy and they remove themselves, again, we're in our 20s and my husband and I are in our 50s. We remove ourselves if we want privacy, and the family agreement is that we assume there's a want of privacy there, and we respect those boundaries. But for the most part, we track each other. So I hope that kind of answered the question from my opinion. I'm sure there are other people out there who would not do that. And again, it depends on your relationship with your children. And then someone said, and I think they mean like with deep fakes or any kind of bullying or teasing that might be happening online. What if it's not that serious, but it hurts your child's feelings? So something gets posted and it hurts their feelings, even though it might not be devastating to them. And Christina, I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah, well, like I shared with, and this is the one I dealt with the most. And the number one thing is parents, it's you. Have your kid block the kid. But the second, not but, and the second step is reach out to your school counselor, share the information because usually I would tell you 99% of the time it's gossip, it's lies, and it was all a misunderstanding, and everyone hugs at the end with that kind of thing. We don't want to ignore it because people's feelings matter, and we want our kiddos to come to school and feel loved, cared for, and supported. So again, with a calm as you can, parents, as calm as you can, calling the school because we are your partner. We are here to keep everybody safe, but it doesn't matter if someone said, I have freckles. You're polka dotted, Christina. That would hurt my feelings when I was 10. And I would, if I'd had a cell phone, my mom would have probably told me to block that kid. But then they still have to go to school. So reaching out to the school counselor and having them do some mediation or having a conversation is probably the best way because again, we are your partners and we want to make sure that we teach kids how to use this technology appropriately.
And I think that idea of a kind of united front between the school and the parents is super helpful. I know with our kids, again, we tried to create an environment where they would come to us. If something happened on a chat and they didn't know how to handle it or they didn't know how to take it, they knew they could come talk to us. And I would have to sometimes moderate my own behavior because I didn't want to overreact. But I would say, okay, here's some ideas for how you can handle this. You can ignore it if you think that that will help. If it's continuing, then you can sometimes get other friends if you see something, say something. So get allies. You can a lot of times block the person, like Christina was saying, so you just don't have to hear it anymore. You can remove yourself from group chats as well. So a lot of times it was hearing what was saying, talking to an adult to get some perspective on what the bullying might be. As Christina said, if someone was telling me I'm freckly, how do we as a family go back to who you are? You're a wonderful person. You're going to get a lot of kudos from your family, and maybe how to not overreact or attack the person who is then making you feel badly, and getting help for that. You know, there's sticking up for yourself and then there's attacking someone. You can definitely say, hey, stop saying that about me. I don't like it. And if they continue, then that's something where you've spoken up for yourself. And now it's time to kind of bring it to the adult kind of level.
Awesome. And I think that concludes the last two questions. And we really want to thank everyone for attending our webinar this evening. And if there's anything or any questions you might have, feel free to visit our sdcoe.net/edtech website. And you can see our contact information. You can email us there and whatnot.
Yeah, I was just going to
Yes.
add one last thing in the chat. I put a link to Common Sense Media. You might hear us refer to this. Schools use this all the time, so I'm happy to tell parents, go out and check this out. It has links for educators, but it also has links for parents. It will tell you what all the new apps are that are out there and whether they're safe for your kids. It gives them ratings. It looks at any kind of media. So it might be video games, it could be computer apps, it could be phone apps, it could be movies even, and gives you kind of the perspective that you might want to know on them. It's a great resource for parents and for schools alike.
I'm going to go ahead and go back to this. I'm going to go ahead and reshare the resource page. Again, if you have, you can scan the QR code if you're watching this, but I will also put this available right here.
Oh, oops. Rats. All right. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll put Common Sense Media in here. I'll also put it on this form that Chris has sent to us. So I might just add this. Let's see. I'm going to just pop a new. Actually, Chris, I don't have editing access. Oh, yes, I do. Sorry, I'm on the wrong thing. I'll put the Common Sense Media and any links that I popped in there, except for the one sign-in link. That one we don't give out after the webinars, but all the others I'll put into that resource page. And then I know Chris will be sending out that resource page in his follow-up video or follow-up email.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, parents. Thank you, teachers and families that are here with us today. We really appreciate the time you've taken for this. And if, again, we are here to serve you and support you, and anything you need, please don't hesitate to ask. But at the same time, always go to your school district, go to your administrators, partner with them first, and talk to them, create a beautiful relationship. That way we can protect our students and our children from a lot of these uncertain times when it comes to technology. And that way we can move ahead with confidence. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.
Nice job.